and she's helping coordinate this today. And our guest is Lisa Perry Burckhardt today. We've known each other for a very long time. We've gone to the same classes when we were at the residential school. Nice to see you again, Lisa.
Yes, hello. Thank you so very much. I'm very glad to be here today.
Do you mind explaining a little bit about who you are and some of your background?
Oof. Oh, from the day I was born to today, wow, who am I? Let me try to put it all in a nutshell for you. So, of course, I'm a deaf woman. I'm from a deaf family. I always grew up knowing that I was a fourth generational deaf, but actually I learned later that it was sixth generational. So that's, or seventh generational. That's even crazier that we found these in our lineage, that it's even more. And so really deafness is who I am. It's a real part of me. I'm married for almost 20 years now. I have two boys. My first son is deaf and my second son is Dakota. And so I think that's who I am in a nutshell. Would you like to know more?
Wow, seventh generation? Oh, that's very rare to have that in your family. It's very unique indeed.
Yes, it is.
Um, for today, would you mind explaining about your job?
So currently I work for a company. I work with a company which is Sorenson Communications. Sorenson Communications provides VRS services. And for those of you who are familiar with the different types of companies, Sorenson is one of the companies that provides VRS and also community and VRI opportunities. And they have outreach that go to different communities, talk about access and communication and how they can improve that. And then they bring information to the FCC and get approvals for things. And then they make products and do a lot of research and development. And what my work entails is development of, is for group development. So what this is professional development. So we provide trainings for those who are recent graduates of ITP programs, interpreter training programs, who want to become video relay interpreters or even community interpreters. We work with them. You know, when you graduate from a program, they're not exactly just strong in all areas and able to interpret for all situations. So I work with the professional development of these interpreters. So we work with making sure that these students are ready to be able to interpret for our communities.
Wow, that's a big role that you have to make sure those trainings are run and even directing those trainings and keeping interpreters at the top of their game.
Yes.
Wow, yes, having quality interpreters is so important to make sure that their skills are appropriate and to match and satisfy what the customer needs.
Yeah, and trying to make sure that we know what quality is. For example, in the community, there's many VRS calls that are made, and it might be somebody who's hard of hearing, so they might need to use something called voice carryover, VCO, where they also have the interpreter. And so the interpreter's just signing for them. So that's an option. So suppose, let's say, a deaf person, something's wrong and they want to file a complaint or give some feedback. That's where our quality control collects that information and that feedback. And it might be in regards to skill or attitude of a person that they were dealing with. And that information comes to our department. And then we divide that into different trainings to provide for the interpreters. So we might work on listening skills to signing skills. We might talk about specific skills for expressive skills for the interpreters. We might talk about customer service and how to make that connection with your customers and making sure that they feel connected with you as the interpreter. And then also self-care, because that's very important for interpreters. They work really hard and can get worn out, burned out very easily. So it's very important for the interpreters to take care of themselves as well so that they don't get burned out. And it happens both in video relay and in the community. And then also we talk about power and oppression and how that can happen, and that balance struggle, and people of color and diversity awareness. And because our interpreters are working with a diverse group of people, and so we want to make sure that they are sensitive to these different groups of people that they might be working with. So we have to provide trainings for all of those things. And so that all is entailed in the one word of quality.
Oh, yes. Really, that entails a lot. And I'm sure it keeps evolving and you want to make sure that that keeps evolving and gets better and
Exactly.
better over time, and make sure that the quality of the interpretation, the product gets better and better. And of course, having all these trainings ready, that's a lot of work. It seems it could be fun. Really, what do you love about your job?
I love working. I just love working. I've been doing it since I was young, and it's just been a passion of mine. I'm always looking for something that I want to find, that one thing that I make a goal and I go towards it. Even when I was young, I thought about becoming an interpreter, and I didn't think about being an interpreter or interpreter trainer or any of those things. I just wanted to work. I just love to work. And so I became a work queen, I guess you could say, a workaholic. And I worked for an insurance company, and I learned a little bit about business and processes and processing claims, and I learned a lot about that. And then I started going towards becoming an interpreter, and then I went to school, and I found that my love of work and the other things that I was passionate about, and my real passion is language and interpreting, and that just really lit the fire for me. And then I go back and I think about my deaf family. I was born and raised using sign language. Sign language is my first language. English is my second language. And for me, finding that identity and having an identity in the world, in this hearing world, it was always a challenge for me. But once I got to the University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and I started my classes there, even though I was deaf, I was taking some of these classes and I learned so much about my own language. I thought I knew my own language, but I didn't realize that there's so much more to interpreting and than just knowing what your language is and what you think you know about your language. And so that's when I started focusing more on interpreting, and it's really brought me to where I am now. So really bringing education and language and culture and all of that into who I am, is who I am now today.
Wow, yes, language, English to ASL, and working with that and learning how to translate that and interpret it. And that's a lot of work and can be a lot of fun too. And yeah, thinking about all the work that you've had and the things that, what, there's some things that have helped you along the way to really get to where you are.
Wow, I've faced a lot of challenges and frustrations in life. Let me give you one example. When I was working for the insurance company, I was also a student at the University of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or University of Wisconsin, Milwaukee. And so trying to balance those things. And then I was there was an assistant case manager job at a group home. And I thought, that'd be a different kind of job. It didn't really have a connection to language or to interpreting, but it helped me understand more about processes and companies and their goals and systems and why they set things up and working with their clients. I learned that with the insurance company. And when I worked at the group home, there was such a diverse group of people that I worked with, and they had different processes. And so that work experience, I felt like it was so important that you can't just have one job, that you have to have different experiences throughout your life when you're working to help you make those connections in life. And then to become an interpreter, there's a ASL class that I was taking. I was a volunteer first at a church. They had an ASL club and they needed somebody who wanted to teach sign language. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll volunteer to teach sign language classes. But even as a volunteer, that helped me learn how to analyze what I was doing, and again, just start to light that fire of passion for me. And then that just all connected into me going to school. And I don't think I could be the person that I am today without all of those experiences that I have. They've really helped me carry over to the person I am today.
Yes. Uh, yeah, really, that's the key. Having your having your journey, and in the end, realizing how it all connects to making you who you are today. Really, in job applications and volunteering, that's so critical to finding what you're passionate about. And
It
all
is.
of that together now helped you become a director. And without those experiences and that journey, you would have been a very different person. And now, some of your work that you're doing now requires what's required for the work that you do, degree, college, etc.
And that's an excellent question, because it is a little bit odd and different than what other jobs are. So as a whole, those who I work with, they can start from a very entry level job, get more training, get licenses, go to school, earn more credits. But really, to finish in 120 credits and earn that degree, I don't necessarily have that yet. The program that I was in was only a 2-year program. Then at the same time, I also took like management classes and work towards my RID certification. And so all the workshop trainings and things that I've taken over this time have helped. And then the interpreting company themselves, they have full-time staff that also lead out to the community and what their experience is. And they asked me to help manage some things internally in the office. They wanted me to help a little bit with payroll. And that kind of took me back to my experience of working with the insurance company. And I thought, okay, yeah, I know this stuff. This is something I have experience with. And so that was a benefit for me. And I did that for almost 12 years, working for the interpreting company and doing their payroll. And then now I've been with Sorenson for 12 years. So I've had 24 years of experience and moved up that ladder from a very entry level job and earning that experience and being involved in workshops and learning so much. And it's brought me to where I am today. And here I am 12 years later now.
So, in your trainings, do you think that it's important for students who are trying to figure out what they're interested in, their portfolio, if they're building that, what are some things you would suggest to students?
I think people really have their portfolios more in line than they used to be. And I think now, though, that your connections and your networking is so much more important than just having a portfolio. You can have pictures that you've done, or you can print your work and add all that into your portfolio and have your name out there that way. You can have all those things on file in a portfolio, but I don't think that's as necessary now as networking. You can get out there and sign up for things to help you with your portfolio. You can design your own portfolio. You can talk about how many hours you've interpreted. For example, so I have two separate ones because I am a legal interpreter, so I do court interpreting, and I have probably a portfolio that's hours. I've got so many hours of training and teaching, and that's all my legal portfolio that I have. And I have that. So if there's a trial or If somebody asks me to testify, I have that information there. All that's there in one link. They can just click on it and go in and see all that information. And so, they can look at my credentials and everything. So I encourage others to do this as well, to match their portfolios to what their experiences and credits and benefits are in their lives.
Yeah, I agree. Making sure you have those experiences, have them in the ready, so in the wings, if you need them, they're handy, and that's so important to have. I mean, some things to put in there, of course, and so that's a good advice for us to make sure we have that accessible and ready to
Mm-hmm.
share if we need it. So, in your position, related with even educating interpreters and education of interpreters, in thinking about Sorenson as a national company, what does that look like? How about yeah, for
A
general.
general idea. Okay, sure. So comparing these two positions with the university, let's say the university concept first. They have their different classes and courses, and they might have classes on the internet, or they might have specific career oriented classes, and that's more university, what they would have. It's more academic focused. With our company, it's more of the corporation. So it's a private corporation. We provide in-house trainings, and it's really connected to what our department is. We work with mentoring and educating interpreters. And so it's not just we teach one thing and we're done, but we have such a range of topics that we have to teach and educate everybody on. It depends on the company and how they're run and what kind of support they provide and for their professional development and their trainings. So that really depends. I don't think there's a lot more that I could talk about with that.
Yeah, so Sorensen itself, keeping themselves, keeping everything up to snuff and keeping things on, keeping quality assurance, it's really important.
And I like to compare to other companies, and it's a challenge. I challenge all of you to really look at yourselves and think about like an interpreting agency. You have big companies and then you have smaller companies out there. So are they providing good ASL? Are they providing programs for those interpreters for their professional development? What do they have? And where are their contracts? Will they work with people? Do they work with freelancers? Can they move around? It's just, there's so many different approaches that companies can have, even small companies can have, compared to larger corporations.
So it's almost like, you know, when you're like you're working with a co-op and everything, you're teaching and you're learning, right?
Yeah, you've got workshops and you're offering different kinds of trainings.
Okay, I know you work in a largely deaf environment in your job, and the company you work for is um, a video relay company with interpreters. Have you experienced any barriers, like providing access or different communication barriers? Have you experienced any in your work?
I've actually experienced two, and two different parts. So when I was saying before that, I was working and I just felt like I was going in, working, and leaving my job. I really didn't feel like I wasn't, I was clock in, clock out. I wasn't really communicating with anybody, just checking in. And I look back at that and I'm like, I should not have accepted that at that time. I should have communicated with people more. That was not acceptable. I should have been more involved rather than just showing up for work and leaving. Now, the other company with a position that I worked, I did some data entry. It was very basic work. There was no interpreter for me. Um, they showed me what to do, and then I would kind of type what I would needed to do or do the job, and they would just kind of give me a thumbs up and that. So I was working with a payroll department and, making changes, and they were happy with what was going on. I didn't really, there wasn't a lot to learn. There was no interpreter. I was just putting product in and product out. And I look back at that and I think I should have fought to have more opportunities, and I could have had more if I would have been more aggressive. Instead, I was just doing the job and getting it done. And then, there were other people who were making the procedures and policies and setting things up, and I was just like, okay, I'll just do it. And so again, it was not really good communication. They would have staff meetings and I would just sit there. I was completely out of the loop. I had no idea what was going on. I should have demanded to have an interpreter for those things. So I did those couple things. I went back and forth between two different departments there without an interpreter. There was somebody there who could sign, but again, that's not comparable to having a real live interpreter there with you. So I look back on my career, and those were some of the barriers that I've had. Now, working for an interpreting agency, everybody there signed, obviously, and so that was good. And then my work with the corporation as a whole, there's so many different levels of management. And so some of them are interpreters who have become managers, and there are some deaf who have moved up, and some people who are leading different departments who are hearing or deaf, and there are other departments where there's hearing. And I still like there to be a balance, and sometimes I feel like that balance is not always there. We might have a total of 24 people in our meetings where 13 are deaf and maybe approximately, well, that would make 11 hearing, who are interpreters or who can sign. And so having that balance, and everybody using ASL is the best way. And the department's philosophy is to bring in an interpreter. So again, having that equity and making sure everybody's on the same playing field, making sure that there are no barriers, working with the system, knowing what's there, not just accepting things, but going along, it's all there.
I know. Yep. Keeping up, keeping up, keeping on, keeping up, having grit, and it's ironic, really. I think about a job that I had, a similar experience you were talking about. I should have, you
Exactly.
know, soon I'll have 30 years in with the state. Yeah. And just thinking about, where we were 30 years ago, even with the ADA being 30 years ago, and then now today, where we are today, it can
Exactly.
be, yeah, it's our right. But again, people in our work, that can be tough to make sure we're getting what we need to have access to everything. And it's so important to keep on asking for those accommodations.
And one of the things I want to add, you can choose how you fight. You were talking about grit, and you can pick and choose your battles, but you have to be ready and understand that it might be something that you're not aware of. So, you can always say, oh, well, I can do better. I'm deaf and this is the way it should be. But you might be burning bridges at the same time. So always pick and choose your battles. Learn where people are coming from, learn their struggles, learn why that's happening, and then start to make those evolutions and try to change it after you step back from the situation. And I've learned that in myself, going, oh, well, this isn't fair. Well, okay, it's not fair, but that doesn't work. You have to be ready to say, this isn't fair. I'm going to learn from this situation, and I'm going to help you understand better why it's not fair and how we can make those changes. So that's, I feel, how you can make changes in the world.
Yeah, I think when we went to youth leadership camp, we actually went together, learning
Yes,
with team building activities and learning how to work together, getting through problems. Same thing when you're working with hearing. as a deaf person, you're having to work through it together. You're having to figure out what works together, and then working
Exactly.
through that in teaching and empowering, and yeah, exactly that.
And I highly encourage youth leadership camp. It's just another way to connect with deaf and becoming young leaders, even if you're in the school for the deaf or not, whether you're mainstream program, it doesn't matter. I highly encourage kids to go to the youth leadership camp. And really, it helps them to open up and understand their identity and who they are. And they can really become and find that leadership skill within them. They may not even know it's there. They might not even know it's a trait that they have, but they can just take that and run with it. And it's just a wonderful opportunity.
Yes, exactly. And that fits who you are today in your role as a director. So now time is of the essence. So if you wouldn't mind talking about, so your first job at Burger King to now, the experiences you've had, can you give us a little bit to some of this, maybe some perspective, some students who are thinking about their future and some dreams and goals that they have? What advice do you have for them?
Wow. I could go on for an hour talking about advice, but I think what's most important is that you really take a look at who you are. You may not know who you are right now. You might not know what you want to do, and that's okay. That's okay. It's okay to not know what you want to do. That's okay. But go ahead and examine and figure out what's your integrity, what's inside you, what do you stand for, who you are. And really what's most important is being able to be honest with yourself. And it's really going to lead you in whatever direction your life is supposed to take.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you for giving up your afternoon to come and visit with us today and share your thoughts on building a portfolio and building relationships.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for having me today. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.